A rich woman taunts a young waiter, pushing him to sing just to make herself laugh. But when his voice fills the air, everything shifts, and she's left silent, her confidence cracked. It was a Saturday night at Haven's Table, a modern high-end restaurant, tucked in the heart of San Francisco's Marina District, the kind of place where soft jazz floated from a corner stage, while the gentle clink of crystal glasses blended with the low murmur of expensive conversations. The crowd was exactly what you'd expect. Tech executives toasting million-dollar wins, couples celebrating anniversaries, friends catching up over cocktails that looked like art. At one corner table sat Eleanor Gray, mid-50s, dressed in designer black, carrying herself like she owned the air around her. Her perfume lingered in the room, just as much as her need to be noticed. Her laugh was a shade too loud, her movements bigger than necessary, as if every gesture needed an audience. She sat with three equally polished friends, though they seemed content to let her take the spotlight. A young waiter stepped up to their table with smooth precision. His name tag read Andre, but his polite, professional manner kept things far from first-name familiarity. He was in his early 20s, tall, neat, and carrying himself like someone who knew mistakes weren't an option. His voice was steady and low as he described the evening specials. That's when Eleanor interrupted. "Why so serious, Andre? You're working in one of the best restaurants in the city." "Smile a little," she said, her tone dripping with fake warmth. Andre's mouth curved just slightly, but the smile never touched his eyes. "Of course, ma'am. Is there anything else I can help you with?" Eleanor leaned back, swirling a deep red wine. "Oh, I'm sure you can. But tell me, how does someone like you end up here? This job can't be your dream." The table chuckled quietly. Andre's fingers tightened around the edge of his tray, but his face stayed calm. "I enjoy what I do, ma'am." It wasn't the answer Eleanor wanted. She liked getting under people's skin. Tilting her head, she studied him as if deciding how best to pull him apart. Before she could push further, Andre excused himself to serve another table. The evening grew louder as more guests arrived, but Eleanor's gaze kept drifting back to him, a puzzle she wanted to solve, or maybe just break. Wine kept flowing at her table, and with each glass her boldness sharpened. Her friends laughed as she made snide remarks about everyone in the room, from the hostess to a couple eating across the way. Andre returned to clear plates and refill glasses. Eleanor saw her chance. "Tell me, Andre," she called over the noise, "do you have any hidden talents? Or are you only good at carrying trays?" Her friends laughed, but without kindness. Andre paused for a heartbeat, his eyes flicking toward hers, before he continued stacking plates. "I just try to do my job well, ma'am." She waved a hand like it was nothing. "Come on, don't be modest. You must have some kind of gift. I've heard people from your background often have musical talent. Can you sing?" The table went still. Even her friends shifted uncomfortably, but Eleanor didn't seem to notice or care. Her eyes stayed locked on him. "I'm not sure that would be appropriate, ma'am," he said. Eleanor leaned forward on her elbows. "Oh, don't be shy. Humor us. Just a little something. It's all in good fun." The tension was heavy now. Other diners had started glancing over. The jazz trio in the corner kept playing, unaware of the scene building in the room. "Eleanor, maybe we should—" one of her friends began, but she raised a perfectly manicured hand to silence him. "Please, I'm curious," she said, her voice sweet on the surface, sharp underneath. "What have you got to lose?" Andre's jaw tightened slightly, but his expression stayed calm. Andre glanced around, clearly weighing his choices. Walking away would draw attention, but giving in felt like letting her win. The silence stretched on, every clink of glass and shuffle of a chair, making it heavier. Finally, he let out a slow breath and gave a small nod. "If it will make you happy, ma'am." Eleanor's lips curled into a satisfied smile, and her friends leaned forward, ready to be entertained. A few nearby diners turned in their seats, their curiosity sparking. Andre stepped back, standing tall with his tray resting against his hip. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, drawing in a deep breath. When he opened them again, it felt as if the room had shrunk. The noise dimmed, and every gaze was locked on him. No one was ready for what happened next. Andre began with a soft, low hum, deep, warm, and unguarded. The first notes drifted through the air, pulling people's attention instantly. It wasn't just sound, it was feeling. Every tone carried weight, a mix of struggle and hope, pain and perseverance. The melody was an old one, familiar to some, but the way he sang it made it feel reborn, fresh, raw, and deeply personal. It was as though he was peeling back, a piece of his own heart for the room to see. Eleanor's smirk vanished. Her wine glass stopped mid-swish. Her eyes, for the first time that night, looked uncertain. Around the restaurant, forks hovered above plates. The jazz trio stopped playing. Even the chef leaned out from the kitchen doorway, wiping his hands on his apron to listen. Andre's voice climbed, filling every corner of the room. A waitress by the kitchen door dabbed at her eyes. A couple at the bar leaned closer, their faces softening. Eleanor's friends exchanged glances, their amusement replaced with awe. One whispered, "I had no idea." Eleanor said nothing. She just stared, as though struggling to understand what she was feeling. Gone was the laughter. Gone were the barbed comments. Only the song remained, steady and unshakable. As Andre reached the final notes, his voice trembled, not from nerves, but from the sheer emotion pouring out of him. The last tone lingered in the stillness, stretching for a heartbeat, before dissolving into quiet. No one moved. It was as if the whole room had been holding its breath. Then, slowly, applause began to spread. Not polite clapping, but loud, heartfelt, and filled with genuine admiration. People stood to their feet, some wiping away tears. Andre gave a small nod, his breathing heavy but his expression calm. He glanced briefly at Eleanor, before walking toward the kitchen, tray still balanced at his side. Eleanor sat frozen, her hands gripping the edge of the table, like she needed the anchor. Her face was unreadable. Shock, shame, and something else she couldn't name. The room stayed alive with applause, but she didn't join in. Her eyes stayed fixed on Andre, until he disappeared through the swinging kitchen doors. What he had given them wasn't just a song. It was a reckoning, and Eleanor felt it deep in her bones. When the restaurant returned to its usual rhythm, the energy was different. Conversations were quieter, the jazz trio slower to begin their next tune, as though even they weren't sure how to follow what had just happened. Eleanor sat still. Her once commanding presence faded. Her friends avoided her eyes, their unease obvious. Finally, one of them broke the silence. That was something else, wasn't it? She didn't answer right away. Her fingers tightened on her wine glass as she stared at the tablecloth. For the first time that night, she looked unsure, as if the very base of her confidence had cracked. "I didn't expect," she began, but the words trailed off. What could she even say? That she never thought he'd be extraordinary? That she believed a joke could rattle him? Her eyes swept the room. People were still whispering about Andre. At a nearby table, a couple looked her way and shook their heads, their disapproval silent but clear. A tightness grew in her chest. Regret? Embarrassment? Maybe both. She reached for her wine, but didn't drink, setting it down like the taste had lost its appeal. In the kitchen, Andre leaned against the counter, his hands trembling just slightly. One of the line cooks clapped him on the back. "Man, you've got some pipes," he said with a grin. Andre smiled faintly, though his mind was elsewhere. He'd been singing his whole life, in church choirs, at community events, but never imagined his voice would matter. In a place like this, not like that. He wiped his hands, took a breath, and stepped back onto the dining floor. The applause had faded, but the stares followed him. People whispered as he passed, some smiling warmly, others nodding with quiet respect. When he reached Eleanor's table, he wasn't sure what to expect. She looked up at him, and for the first time there was no mockery in her eyes, only something softer, almost uncertain. "Thank you for sharing that," she said quietly. Her voice had lost its sharp edge. Andre met her gaze, his tone steady but firm. "I didn't do it for you." Then, with the same professionalism as before, he added, "Let me know if you need anything else," and walked away. Eleanor blinked, caught off guard. She watched him tend to another table, her chest tightening again. For someone so used to owning the room, she suddenly felt very small. Her friends tried to lighten the mood, laughing about trivial things, ordering dessert, but she barely joined in. Her mind kept replaying the moment, the depth of his voice, the emotion in his face, and most of all, the weight of his quiet, piercing words. "I didn't do it for you." When the check arrived, Eleanor glanced toward the kitchen. Andre was moving between tables, with the same calm grace, treating each guest with equal care. Something about him now felt untouchable, as though his song had lifted him, far beyond the role she tried to confine him to. She sighed, pulled out a crisp bill, and slipped it into the check holder. After a pause, she wrote a short note on the back of the receipt, and closed it. As the group stood to leave, Eleanor lagged behind, scanning the room one last time, before stepping into the cool night. Later, Andre returned to the table. He opened the check holder to find the bill, and the note, written in delicate handwriting. "Your voice is a power I didn't expect. Thank you for reminding me what humility sounds like." He read it twice, his expression unreadable, then tucked it into his pocket, not for validation, but because it felt like a rare acknowledgement of something real. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. That night, Eleanor rode home in silence, staring at her reflection in the car window and hardly recognizing herself. Andre's song echoed in her mind, pushing her to face the truth about how she used her privilege. For the first time in years, she felt a faint stir change, small but undeniable. Andre returned to his modest apartment, the warm glow of a single lamp greeting him. He set the note on the counter, then sat down with a long exhale. The night had drained him, but it had also affirmed something deep inside. He didn't need Eleanor's approval. He didn't need anyone's. His voice and his dignity had always been enough. This story is a quiet reminder of the strength and authenticity and the lasting effect of respect. It asks us to think about how we treat others and how even the smallest actions can echo far beyond the moment.